Hello and welcome to tonight's show.
And hello and welcome to episode 202 of On the Bench, the podcast for scale modelers by scale modelers, all about scale models. This episode is being brought to you by our latest Patreon supporter, Greg Colton. You too can support the show just like Greg. Simply go to www.patreon.com/onthebench and pledge any amount from as little as $1 per month. All of our Patreon supporters get a OTB sticker and of course go into the Patreon Wheel of Fortune. This show couldn't be possible without all of our wonderful Patreon supporters, so thank you one and all for your support through this year.
Are you looking for top quality paints for your next project? Then look no further than the Scale Modeler Supply, Australia's hobby paint. Hi, I'm Scott, and as a passionate modeler myself, I've spent years creating the SMS product range, designing them specifically with the scale modeler in mind. We have worked extensively to develop our acrylic lacquer paint range to not only be airbrush ready straight out of the bottle, but also to be easy to use so that anyone of any skill level can create professional results with minimal effort. Just give the bottle a good shake, pour into your airbrush, and spray at 15 psi. So dive into your next project with confidence, knowing that you're backed by one of the finest hobby paints in the market. Head over to our website at scalemodeler.com.au to check out our full range and to find your closest retailer.
And hello and welcome to the show. And in the studio, I've got Ian.
G'day Dave, g'day Julian, g'day listeners.
And of course we have, wait for it, our master winning Julian.
Yes. Yeah, okay.
Masterclass winning.
Yes.
All well done. On the back of the last show that we went to at Canberra, Scale ACT.
Yeah, because I mean, we haven't spoken about the
aftermath.
Yeah, the aftermath
of
that show. Yeah. So we need to do that.
So I'm feeling very, I don't know, what's the word for it? In awe of having somebody who won Masters sit next to me.
Okay.
Mind you, it was well,
right.
It was well deserved. It was well deserved.
Take 10% off, all right?
Take 10% off?
Yeah. You're gassing me up a little too much.
Oh, come on. You did very, very well with your car models, with that Mustang.
How many awards did you win for that?
Three.
Yeah.
3 awards for the one model.
That's pretty impressive.
But it's kind of a thing where if it's good enough to win one of them, it was good enough to win all of them, kind of a thing.
I don't know.
Oh, that's how I see it anyway. Yeah. So, what should I just talk about it now?
Go on, talk about it now.
Okay, so what happened was, I built this Mustang specifically for this event because I heard that there was like a Mustang-specific car category. Right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I wouldn't really normally go in that direction because, you know, a lot of the American subjects are covered by AMT and they make poopy kits.
They do.
Right?
Yeah.
And the remaining ones are done by Revell, and they're not that hot either. But this one is a fairly recent-ish kit, so I was like, yeah, I'll give it a go. I built it to my regular sort of standards.
Yep.
I didn't, I mean, I wasn't really pushing myself. It had like a black bonnet hood, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there is that, and black is very unforgiving.
It is, yes.
When it comes to like the polishing aspect of cars, and and there's also the fact that I had to lay down the decal around the edge of the black area, so I had to smooth that all out and make sure it was all blended in. And you couldn't see that it was a decal underneath, like the raised part. Anyway, so I had to deal with the kit, did it, put it in, and then when the show came around, I'd totally forgotten that it was going to be an open system. Mm-hmm. So when I got to the entry form part, I was like, oh, which should I put it in? Because I got like rookie, standard, and master.
Yeah.
And I was reading through the descriptions, and it said, if you consistently win, then you have to put it in master.
And because you'd won last year, you did a clean sweep the year before.
Yeah. So it was really hard. Like as much as I want to be conservative in the estimation of my skill level,
Sure.
it's pretty hard to argue with when I clean swept the category, right?
That's right.
So I was like, oh, okay, I guess I have to put it in Masters, and that's what the description says, right? So I put it in Master. The results came out, when I was at the show, and it's like, yep, there's my name up there, and my name's the only
Gold.
person who won gold for cars in Master level.
Yep.
And then, because that in itself means that it was the best car in Master, right? So I won the second award for best car in the show.
Yep.
And then after that, I won the Mustang category, because the Mustang category is only a portion of the car models, right?
Second year he's got a clean sweep.
Yeah, done well.
Well, it's not necessarily clean sweep, because I'm not. You know what I mean? Like, it's not the same kind of a clean sweep, I guess. But I won every award that you could win.
Yes.
Within cars.
Yeah.
Except for the only thing it possibly could have one more award would have been the best paint category, but that of course went to Marissa's Gundam,
Yeah,
which was of course crazy good.
Yeah.
Oh my
Crazy
God.
That girl has got some serious talent,
Yeah,
hasn't she?
different level.
Yeah.
But see, I was thinking about that particular award, like what you would need to win it, and I think that you could only possibly win it with a Gundam. I think. At that level, like if there was a Gundam that was painted well enough to win it, you would have to. The only way you could beat it was with another Gundam.
Yep.
Because that's the only thing complicated enough with its paint sort of stuff that you could do it with. Like a car just doesn't have enough there.
Yeah. Not enough gravitas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you could paint a car and you could paint a Gundam to that same level of gloss and consistency and polish and blah blah blah. And the Gundam's just got more going on.
Yeah.
It's just got more going on.
Yeah.
A figure could win it, potentially.
Mm-hmm. And there were some really nice figures.
Oh, yeah. The figures were crazy. But then you're comparing apples with oranges, so it's hard to say whether a Gundam or a figure
Well, you don't have to
would
worry
win.
about high gloss finishes and polishes with figures.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's right. But
But you got other concerns.
Yeah. It's an emphasis that's more on the artistic side rather than the technique, like the I guess I call it skill level side. Like skills can be gained, but with regards to art, that's much more subjective, right? Like you can have the skill to lay down the paint on your figure to a really high level, but unless you've got the sort of vision,
the artistic
to exploit it,
gravitas behind it,
to apply it,
Is that your new word for the day?
Gravitas.
Yeah.
Have I used it more than once?
Yes, you have.
Well, it's a ubiquitous word, so.
Oh, ubiquitous.
See how I did that?
Yeah, ubiquitous is your standard go-to, isn't it?
Yes.
Oh gosh! So it was a great show, and there's a more in-depth shakedown on the show over at the Plastic Posse podcast, where they had Sam Dwyer and Peter Davis on talking about it. But again, we just had an absolute blast.
Oh, we did.
It was just 3 days of modelling, catching up with mates, drinking beer.
Eating lots of food,
looking at more models, buying lots of stuff.
Yep.
It was just laughing at your mates who did stupid things like falling off scooters and stuff like that.
I'd forgotten about that.
Just think he spent at least one day at the show with a broken wrist.
Yeah. And he's too stupid to know that he had a broken wrist.
It's not exactly that. I mean, he has like spinal injuries that prevent him from feeling pain.
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
But
we're not. So, are you going to talk about this properly?
No. Go on. You can talk about it properly.
Okay. So, Michael, one of the sort of guys we've had on the podcast, he was going around on this scooter, and the whole time we were thinking, "Oh, that's an accident."
Well, actually, him and his mate Troy, they were doubling up, so they were butting up on the one scooter.
Yeah.
which
All right.
which would have kind of looked weird. I mean, two 40-year-old guys belting down.
Yeah, these are those electric scooters that you see in a lot of cities that are now getting sort of banned for being dangerous, right? And sure enough, he had to go up a little, the little ramp that, sort of to circumvent the gutter to get off the road. And that was enough to turn his wheel sideways, and then he fell over.
He didn't fall over. He landed like a bag of sack of potatoes.
Yeah, he would have landed like flat on his face.
He did, yes.
Yeah.
Snapped a tooth.
So he turns up, and there's this blood pouring out of his face while he's got like a broken tooth and a busted lip, and apparently only afterwards did we know
A couple of cracked ribs as well.
Yeah, cracked ribs and a broken wrist.
Yeah. So he came a cropper, didn't he?
Well,
and there's a lesson in that for everyone.
Yeah, that was very impressive. Men over 20 shouldn't be on a scooter.
And like less than 30 minutes later, he was having a drink with us at the pub, right? Because he couldn't feel anything. Yeah. And he couldn't feel anything, so he was happy as anything. He's got a beer in hand, and he's,
backing away.
They're drinking it through a straw because
he does through a straw.
Only because he's trying to like do the right thing by his lip and everything, but he couldn't feel any, so he'd be just as easily like if someone hadn't told him you should drink this out of a straw, he would probably just keep on drinking it out of the cup.
And look, we caught up with so many great guys, and friends of the show. Old mates of ours. We had it comes across from Micro Machines podcast.
Callum.
Callum.
Yes, Callum.
Yes, from Micro Machines. It's great catching up with
Callum. Rocks up with the dirtiest, crappiest looking model you can ever see, and walks off with a gold for
it. That was a beautiful build. That was a stunning build.
It was filthy.
Yeah, it was meant to be filthy.
I know.
First World War tadpole.
It's the was it a Mark IV or one of the longer ones?
The longer one, the tadpole.
Ones, yeah.
Oh, the tadpole. Oh, that's okay.
The one with the mortar at the back of it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so it was like in a diorama form, so it was attached to a big square.
Just on a nice base, yeah.
But he dragged it all the way from New Zealand.
Yeah, and it suffered some damage, did it not?
Yeah, it's on the photo which bits.
And he didn't expect to. He just brought it across to sort of be part of the competition and walks away with gold.
Yeah,
those are the best wins.
They are the best wins.
And
it was great catching up. He's a
good, top guy, isn't he?
Good bloke.
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah,
I think I got him to show me his model like twice because I forgot that, and that always happens. I always forget to correlate like which model belongs to who.
Yeah,
I go, oh wait, you've got something here. Show it to me. And you walk in. Oh yeah, I've seen this one.
Yeah,
you've shown it to me once before.
Yeah. Because we were in a slightly different position this year. We were upstairs, and the show organiser came up and said, "Are you happy with that? Or would you prefer to be back down?" So next year we're going to be back down on the ground.
Okay.
So we're not tucked away from everybody, which would be really cool.
Yep.
And
I quite like that area up there, though.
I did and I didn't. I missed the interaction of the people sort of walking past while we were recording.
Oh, right. Gotcha, yeah.
And I think a few people weren't quite aware that we were recording because we were tucked up so far out of the way. So
we had a great commanding view.
Oh, we did. It was an awesome view of the place. But, so next year we're back on the floor again, which will be really cool. And, of course, we're pushing next year. Well, this is my campaign. 1,000 for 25.
Yep, 1,000 entries.
1,025.
Oh, okay.
So if everybody who enters the competition next year brings just 4 models, we're going to crack the 1,000 mark.
Yep. Which would be insane.
I know the organisers are probably sweating bullets over this, but come on, guys, we can do this.
Yes.
We can do it.
I could probably swing like a lot of models, actually.
Well, I took, I want to say I entered 7, walked over the bronze and the silver. I can't remember for which models now. So I was pretty happy with how I went this year. Idiot me put one accidentally in Masters, and that didn't get anywhere, so I was gutted over that. I was gutted over the fact that stupid me put it in the wrong category.
Oh.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
I don't consider myself a master. I'm just sort of standard.
Same with me.
Yeah. I'm just a
run-of-the-mill
modelling hack.
I'm a modelling schmuck.
I'm just a hack.
Well, when was the last time you pushed yourself? Because you've got like ambitious builds, and then you've got sort of I'm just doing this for funsies. I'm just enjoying myself kind of builds. 99%
of my builds start out as I'm going to push this. 99 of the builds end up, this is just fun, I'm just building it for myself.
Okay.
And there's that 1%, but you can't tell because I've entered models in that I thought were just meh, and they've walked away with gold, like a couple of ones up in Queensland.
Okay.
And I thought they weren't my best ones, so you can never tell.
Mm.
And I think...
Well, I mean...
I think if I go...
Let me put it this way. Like, you saw the level of the ship models that won at ACT, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that you've ever reached that far?
No.
No.
No, I'm not.
I don't.
I think that your Shikaku would come close.
But the level of weathering that is put into those ones that we saw at the show is just next level. I mean, seriously, next level.
Yeah.
And speaking of ship models, a big thank you to Bacon Bits for his giving me that little German minesweeper.
Yes.
I'm still blown away by his models.
And it was so tiny, the amount of detail he's thrown in that thing. Like, it's...
Well, I'm really getting wound up about this because how come you're the one who gets all the stuff? I mean, you got some stuff off someone else at Queensland. Bacon
got
Bits
the Ben
gave you
Flood,
this
yeah,
one.
yeah.
What the hell, man?
I just got an affable personality.
I think that might
But
be.
I'm the star of the show, and these guys are...
Maybe they just feel sorry for me.
Probably, that's
There
what
you
it
go.
is.
This is what you got to inspire to. You go, this is your next level.
This is your consolation prize.
Yes, it's the carrot on a stick.
Yep, that's right.
But to get back to what you were talking about, I mean, many a times I've sort of sat down to start a new project and going, I'm going to build this so I can win a medal. And that's the dumbest way to go about building a model.
I've never seen you put figures on a ship model.
No, I don't like putting... I like my ship models to be museum quality.
Yeah, museum models have figures on them.
Not always.
Museum quality is where it's just a pristine build, and that's how
I've
it is.
seen museum models with figures on them.
Well, you may well have, but what I'm saying is the terminology...
Is it because that's even in the smaller sense, it's still kind of like figure painting?
Is he going to let me get a word in edgeways?
No, because I want you to do it. Just do it. Just do it, Dave. Do it
It's
one
funny,
time.
Greg at
And the figures you can buy now are insane.
Well,
Yeah,
it's funny. Greg at our club last night brought... he's doing a new diorama for his YouTube channel, and he printed some 1/350 scale figures, and you look at it and you go, no way, man, can I paint them? They're just too small.
You deal with ships, Dave.
I know, but painting a figure to sort of...
It doesn't have to be like accurate. You just have to sort of you basically just like for a sailor, you're just painting it white and then putting a few dark blue stripes on them.
This is how bad of a figure painter I am. I am such a bad figure painter that even in 1/350 scale, I'd have googly eyes on my figures. That's how bad I am.
You don't paint the eyes. On that scale, you do not paint the eyes. You paint the flesh tone and you put a very light wash over it.
Yeah. It's basically just a sort of think of it as those architectural things. It's just like
Yeah.
it just gives the impression of scale is what they do.
Yeah,
That's
I
mostly
know.
what they're there for.
I'll leave that sort of high-end shipbuilding to the guys who do it really well, and I'll just build the ships to my sort of standard and be happy with that.
Okay. Kind of disappointing.
Rockets and science fiction stuff, on the other hand, it's a little
Yeah,
bit
you're
different.
doing quite a bit of that these days. You know,
Yeah.
actually doing. I mean, ship builds are very involved, so that's kind of like.
Well, it's funny, the last ship I built, HMS Zulu, I did weather that, believe it or not.
I was very impressed that you went that far.
I was very impressed with it. It turned out pretty good, actually. I was quite impressed with that.
Is there any other sort of sort of weathering techniques within ships that you would want to try out?
No,
Because you've done it's got a streak of rust coming down the side of it, kind of, which is kind of what most people would consider bread and butter weathering for a ship model, right?
It's the ship trying to do a ship in weathered is a little bit more difficult, because if you're doing it as a full hull, not in water, you've then got to try and represent the weathering of below the waterline, which is no easy task.
Barnacles and stuff.
Yeah, and
I never see that done.
I have, and it looks awesome when it's done properly. You've also got to try and impart the salt spray on it, and it's not an easy task. I'm not saying it's harder than, say, weathering a tank or an aircraft. It's just very, very different.
And it's
Because you're looking
and
to
it's
put different-
smaller.
Yeah.
It's a lot smaller.
Well, I would say that your standards for weathering are probably quite high.
Yes. Well, only because I'm comparing myself against the likes of Greg, and and Greg's a great person to sort of put up there to sort of try and push yourself against as he's a fantastic target to aim for in regards to what he does.
Really? Not
And he seems to do it
not,
painless.
not Mr. Bacon Bits?
Yeah, that's who we're
That's
talking
what we're
about.
talking about.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about a different Greg.
No.
Because you mentioned both of them in this conversation about ships.
I know.
So getting back to the show, that Nostromo.
Yes.
So I saw just before on our Facebook page, on the Bench Facebook page, that over 100 shares on that video.
Yeah.
It's like thousands upon thousands of views.
I walked past it on the last day, and I did notice that like the big antenna thing that sticks out the front of it had been like knocked off or something, and had been sort of just placed on top of it.
I had it. I didn't notice that.
That's a shame.
I'm sure it's just it's not that big of a deal. It's just an antenna.
At that size.
Yeah, well, it's like the size of half a chopstick or something, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, you could just it looks like a pencil. You just stick that.
But
thing
that
back
was
on.
so impressive.
It was. It was. And unfortunately, the 1-to-1 scale Viper
Didn't make it.
Battlestar didn't make it. But I
Yeah.
saw a video about that just the other day.
Yep.
And oh my God, I can't wait
great,
to
isn't
see
it?
that in real life. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Oh, there's hope for next year. He brings it next year.
Well, yeah, there you go. You can hope it does.
So are you gonna? Do you have? Oh, I suppose you don't have any plans to build anything in the near future, do you?
Oh, no, because I won't have anywhere to build.
Oh, you that's right.
Once I've moved out of where I'm moving
you-
over the Christmas
you
holidays,
might be getting into the figure painting game.
I may have to because I won't have any room.
I reckon you should absolutely go ahead with that because that's very sort of pick up and put down anytime you want kind of thing.
Yeah, well, I'm still working out what I can fit in these two tiny rooms, which are about as big as this room we're in now.
You got a
I
lot of
think you
figures
can.
in your stash.
Well,
to
I don't
paint.
even know. I've got absolutely nowhere to stash, to store, to just display kits. Not anywhere where I can display a kit. Just don't have the room. So all my built stuff's just going to have to go into boxes.
You just need to take a page out of Chris Howell's book, get into figures, and then have like a little shadow box you stick on the wall.
Yeah.
Easy. You'll take you years to fill that thing up,
Yes.
especially with the kind of
I just want to hook
elaborate-
into some of my bigger kits, but I've just got absolutely no. I've got nowhere to put them now, but I'll have absolutely nowhere to put them, and I won't even have a modelling room.
That's all right. We'll give you a hand to get yourself sorted over there.
Yes,
So, new models. What have you been buying, gents?
not a thing.
Oh, you're easy. Julian, what have you been buying?
Sorry, what am I building or buying?
What have you been buying?
For Black Friday, you mean?
Well, between the last time we spoke on the show.
Well, I did buy 2 kits, and I'm about to throw one of them out from the ACT show.
throw it out.
Yeah, because I didn't realize how bad it was.
And what kit was that?
It was a Fujimi BMW E30
Oh, right.
coupe, and that's a terrible kit. I can't even tell you.
Yeah.
So you know how there's those classic grills that BMWs have, the two loops.
Yep.
Yeah, well, it's how they're rounded off on the corners. Yeah, that part's not rounded off on the corners. It's
That's
just
square.
it's just square, just 2 square rectangles. It looks shockingly bad. Like maybe the bodywork's okay, but
There you go. Throw it away.
the face of it is wrong. It's you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of that painting of Jesus that lady tried to fix after she accidentally washed the face off it. You know?
Yeah, yes. It's that medieval painting.
Yeah,
yes.
it's like that. So I was like, when I looked at the grill, I was like, completely disgusted. Completely. So I'm looking at it going, I guess I'm gonna have to pilfer the wheels and things like that, and then just toss it. What a waste of money. I wish I'd known. I even did my research, and I just didn't research enough because I didn't bother to Google what the model looks like finished.
What's the other one you bought?
The other one I bought? Oh, what was the other one? I've forgotten.
I don't know.
It would have been a car kit anyway.
Yeah, of course it was a car kit.
Oh,
no.
sorry. Go on.
I did remember. It's the it's a Revell boxing, and so it's a Porsche 944, right? Which is the 4-cylinder kind of Porsche designed for Volkswagen.
Right.
And then Volkswagen decided, oh no, we're actually in a very precarious position because we just ended production of the Beetle. So now we're quite worried and we're not going to, we don't want this anymore. And so Porsche bought it back off them and decided to make it themselves.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. And then like that was a 924 and then the 944 was like a sort of different iteration of it
Right.
with a bigger motor. So that's a cool kit because it's a Hasegawa kit.
Oh,
And
right.
Hasegawa has boxed it like 20 times and Revell boxed it one time and I happened to get that boxing.
And that'd be a lot cheaper than the Hasegawa kit too.
I guess so, but I mean it's a second-hand kit from the swap and sell, right?
Oh, you actually bought something.
Yeah,
from
yeah,
Swap
yeah,
and Sell.
yeah. Same with the Fujimi. That's how I ended up with that turd. But yeah, so I've got this kit and I've got some interesting things I want to do with it. It's really nice because it's a Hasegawa kit, and this is one because out of Hasegawa's 20-something boxings, only one or two, I think one of them is done in streetcar form with like an actual interior instead of a race car interior.
Ah.
Right? So it would have been really hard for me to get one of those boxings. But the Revell boxing is the only one of its kind, and it's a streetcar boxing. And I'm a streetcar guy
which
rather
is
than a
what
race
you
car
wanted.
guy. Exactly.
Very cool.
So yeah, I've got some really cool ideas that I want to do with it. Whether I'll be able to achieve them or not, we'll have to see.
And you did buy something, didn't you?
At the show, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, dropped about $1,000 with Andrew Judson at Spec Mod.
$1,000.
At Spec Mod, like I do every time I see Juddo.
Yeah, and then you don't do any figures. That's why
Yeah, I know.
you're picking up figures.
I'm just collecting them at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. You're just collecting them. So now you should bloody start
Yeah, so I
painting
got
them.
some nice figures from him, which was pretty cool. Got that big Mayan warrior.
There you go.
What else got? Some cyberpunk chick with a big
Yep.
baseball bat.
Yeah, that's cool.
Some like dinosaur shaman,
Yes.
which I thought looked really, really cool.
All right, so here's my challenge to you. I want you to have picked out something, one of your figures, and at least have it built and primed.
We'll have it primed, yeah.
By when?
You don't have to build those figures.
Next meeting, the first meeting of next year.
First meeting.
Sorry,
First episode.
First episode.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
Episode
All right.
is what I mean.
Just
That's
primed.
a lot of time for
Just to
very
prime it.
little.
Yeah.
All things considered.
Yeah.
And-
well,
and we
I'm
know
still. My main thing at the moment is getting this Yamato finished so I can give it to the client.
Oh yeah, you've got that thing. Okay, well, yeah, good luck with that. I think
I'm I'm spending a few hours every night on it.
Well, I'm surprised you. Oh yeah, because you still.
I've still got a model room at the moment.
Yeah, at the moment. Yeah,
So
yeah.
and
Well,
I've got room to do this because it's a big boat.
Okay.
Even
yeah.
in 1350, it's a big ship.
Yeah, it is.
The Yamato.
Okay.
So I've got the hull done, deck done.
Well, you still got your
Pagoda.
modeling room. You should probably pick out like 3 figures and have them.
Dude,
built
he's
in-
going to start packing. He's going to move out in like 3 weeks.
Is he?
Yes.
Yeah, 3 or 4 weeks I've got to
He
be
ain't
out
got that
of there.
much time left.
Oh, okay.
And we've both seen his model room. He needs a lot of time to pack all that stuff up.
And that's
man.
just one room.
Yeah, but we can. I mean, I'm willing to help. I don't know about you, but I'm willing to help.
Well, we helped out the other weekend when we
Yeah.
moved furniture.
Yeah,
and
that's
stuff.
true.
Yeah, including that freaking couch that weighed a ton.
I'd struggle to help him move his modelling stuff, but I'd be picking stuff up, going, "Oh, this is nice," and I'm thinking, "Oh, this is nice."
That's
And that's not talking about all the kits I've got stashed in my bedroom.
yeah.
In the wardrobe in my bedroom. Like,
Under the bed.
no,
in the
there's no room
ceiling.
under the bed.
So
in the
I mean,
oven, in
moving
the
all that
fridge.
stuff is going to be hard in a car. So what are you going to do? You're going to borrow like a trailer that's got
I'm going to get a
over it?
removalist company.
Okay,
Yeah,
and you
but-
want them to move all your kits?
Oh, all my built stuff I'll move myself, but all the other stuff I'll
All
just
the-
box up
Oh, really? Oh, you're going to put it into big cardboard boxes.
Yeah.
Okay,
and put into storage
okay,
until I have somewhere where I can build again.
okay.
I still think you're better off buying plastic moving tubs for all of your
Oh, yeah,
kits,
that might be a bit better.
and it'll work out about the same price as buying cardboard boxes and putting it into plastic tubs with a lid on, because that way no rodents or anything can get into it.
Yeah, that's right,
And it'll
yeah.
be waterproof and all that as well. So
Yeah, you could almost even like put it in that garage.
Yeah,
yeah, go to Kmart, man, or to Bunnings and check out the great big tubs there. They're dirt cheap,
yep.
and just buy about 20 of them. That'd be odd. That's what I'd be doing. Anyway, that's me.
Well, I really don't have that many built kits to move anyway.
No, built you don't, but unbuilt you be putting in should be putting in the plastic tubs.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this month has been huge for me. I've bought so much stuff. And on top of that, Andy's HQ have now released in Australia the 1/16 scale M113, which everybody's been sending me messages about. Hey, Dave, it's available now.
Yeah, everyone's egging you on.
Well, this is I've bought 2 aircraft, 2 Harriers, kinetic Harriers. I've put a down payment on 4 rockets, which are coming from the US.
All right.
I've ordered a couple from Tony from Horizon Models before they're all
That's
gone.
sad news that he's closing up shop.
I know. Well, maybe we'll chat about that later. What else did I buy? Oh, I've bought some other stuff as well. Another couple models. And there's still more models that I still haven't finished purchasing it. I mean, Hobartville have released their a.k.a, which is a Navy sort of system, which is a torpedo that gets launched off a ship into the sea. So that's available for purchase now, and I've still yet to buy that. And then the M113 comes along, and I look at my bank account and go, oh, I've kind of overspent this month by a little bit.
So you got to wait till next month.
Yeah, I think I will.
Yeah, well, I'm waiting for I think the gold class P40s from Edward to come out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got some. I'll probably get 2 of those.
Jeez, man. I suppose. Oh, yeah, gold. Is that what it's called? Gold class?
I think it's gold class.
What's it
Boxing
called?
Gold box.
Oh, the Royal
Royal, that's
Royal
it,
class.
Royal
Yeah, yeah, Royal class.
Jeez, look at us.
Wow, finally buying a Royal class.
Oh, I already bought a Royal class.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, I bought the Mustang Royal class.
Oh.
Bought 2 of them.
Jeez. Come on, man.
Yeah, worth it.
Hey, come on, man. All right, how about we have a look at some listener mail?
Yeah, that's a good idea, Dave.
The mailbox is very, very thin.
Yeah.
We've only got 2 emails in.
Well, there you go. Obviously, yeah.
No, obviously nobody likes us anymore.
we've done our bit.
So if you do want to send us an email, it's onthebench64@gmail.com. And also, if you have a look at the show notes, there's a little link there so you can still send us a voicemail message,
Yes.
which we're happy to sort of have as well. We'd really love to hear what you guys have to say.
They're a lot of fun.
Yeah, so that'd be really cool. So John Lees wrote back some time ago, and I'm pretty sure I missed this one, so we're going to catch up on this one. Greetings, benchers. A hearty well done for your 200th episode.
Thank you.
I have the honour of having listened to all but a few of your episodes at least once, and if I might suggest a best-of list, I would nominate episode number 53, which is building aircraft. We had Mushi from Uchi on for that one. Ushi.
Yes.
Not only was this episode very helpful in bringing me back up to speed, as I'm about to build my first aircraft in many years, but I found the conversation and general banter about building models with tips from your experience excellent and at times quite humorous. Such episodes as this are among your best. Thanks again for all the great advice and good times. Best regards. That's John Lees from Eglin, Illinois, USA.
What?
He just said Eglin. That's Elgin.
Elgin.
Yeah.
E-L-G.
Yeah, you said E-G-L.
Oh, okay.
Didn't take him long.
No. And this one is a little bit aimed at Julian, actually. Tim Campbell writes in, gents, long-time listener, love the podcast and the range of subjects and obvious affection you have for each other. But when talking about Korean manufacturers, Julian mentioned DEF model doesn't have the greatest reputation. I really didn't understand this. Surely some mistake. DEF models make some of the very best resin wheels and accessories in the business. I use them every time I can. I haven't found better wheels or tyres out there. I have attached an example of you, which is for a 1/35th scale AMX 10 RCR French tank destroyer. Yours in modelling, Tim Campbell, a Brit in Texas for 22 years. Well, that's an interesting story. How did a Brit end up in Texas?
Yeah. That's a huge
Well,
change.
It is. Anyway, Julian, the floor is yours. You have just been besmirched.
I've seen quite a few posts where people have bought Def model wheels, and they've ended up being very less accurate than the kit wheels that they were supposed to replace.
Right.
Yeah.
But the picture he sent of the...
It's like any manufacturer, right? Like you can find a bad example in Tamir's lineup, despite their very good reputation, and you can find a good one in Def Model's lineup, despite their poor reputation.
Mm-hmm.
And like if you look at that photo, right, you see how like the one on the right has the
one on the right's the kit wheel.
Yeah.
With the rubber tire.
Yeah,
the tire
tires, and
yeah.
you've obviously, like, you can buy the Def Model one with the, what do you call it?
The sag and
the weighted tires.
Yeah, they look cool.
Yeah, but like what happened? You can find a good example like that, and then you can also find like lots of bad examples, like where they've got like the thicknesses wrong, and sidewall detail wrong,
right.
or spokes wrong, nuts wrong. In a lot of model kits, the what do you call them? The bolts and stuff are often represented as circles.
Oh yeah, instead of like hexagons.
Yeah, instead of hexes.
Yep.
But things like that. These are all details that people will drill into, and they'll post photos of the real thing and go, yeah, that's not quite right, and this isn't quite to the right size, and this and that, and blah 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 blah.
So, but you still think
I've seen quite a few examples of pretty bad results from Def Model. Yeah.
Oh. Tim, I've got to say that Julian sort of agrees and doesn't agree with you. So
yeah, I mean it's a case by case thing. So I'm sure they've got some good ones, and I'm sure they've got some bad ones, and like even with Tamiya that has a great reputation, like you'd never see anyone recommend Tamiya's A10 in 48 scale. That's a terrible model.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's got like raised panel lines, I'm pretty sure.
Oh.
That's why everyone bothers.
I remember it was a weird one.
Like the best, I think...
Decades ago, I built the Tamiya 32nd scale F14 Tomcat.
Okay, yeah,
32nd scale. Now, the front cockpit section, from the back seat forwards, that whole section was all engraved panel lines. The rest of the plane was raised.
Oh, this is the 48 scale one?
No, that's 32nd.
The 32nd scale one?
Yep.
They might have retooled that at some point.
They may have. Like I said, it was decades ago when I built that.
Wow.
Okay.
It was weird. Yeah, it's like a small section of the aircraft was recessed and the rest was all raised. It was weird.
Yeah. Thanks for writing in, Tim. Love to hear the story about how a Brit ended up in Texas. So,
obviously he experienced weather that wasn't cold and soggy.
Now, there's another dude who's a YouTuber, and he does like YouTubes on flying around, the world and different airlines and stuff. And he moved from the UK to Texas as well, just recently. It's not the same guy as Tim. It's another guy, but yeah, interesting.
Well, I've heard some people say that Australia is like the British version of Texas. I don't necessarily agree. Like, I don't think most Australians would necessarily agree with that saying. But I understand
parts
how
of Australia. Yes.
I understand how they would say that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But that said, there's a lot of British people who come out here, right?
Yeah.
Actually, I think we've got more immigration from the UK in recent times than any time before that.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, so more 10-pound poms.
Nah. All right. How about we have a break and we'll be back very shortly. And that gives me great pleasure to welcome to the show Evan McCallum, otherwise known as Panzermeister... Oh, gosh. Panzermeister36. I just had a mental blank there. I'm sorry, Evan. How are you, mate?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Very well, thanks.
Of course, we're calling you from Australia. You're based on the east coast of Canada.
Mid east of Canada. Essentially the opposite side of the planet from where you guys are.
Pretty much, yes. Yes.
What's a town?
I live in Ottawa, which is the capital of Canada. People are usually more familiar with something like Toronto or Montreal. I'm kind of halfway in between those two.
Oh, well, I'm actually used to the two majors you just spoke about. I don't think I've ever been to Ottawa before.
No, it's the first time for everything.
It's one of those boring government towns like Washington, D.C., so there's not much to do here.
Well, you know what? We've just got back from the Canberra show, which is our capital, and the three of us have also been to Washington, D.C., which we both enjoyed. So I wouldn't play it down as being that boring.
Yeah.
Besides, you live there, don't you, Evan? So there you go. For anybody who has never heard of you before, who is Evan McCallum, and what do you do?
Well, I am a relatively young scale modeler, and I'm known for my YouTube channel, which is Panzermeister36, as you said. About me personally, I am I have a degree in aeronautical engineering, and for work, I'm a test engineer for the Department of Defense, Canada. And people always find it strange that I am very aerospace in my background, and yet I have never built an aircraft model. I always build tanks. And I think that comes from the fact that my interest in aircraft is from a technical side, and then my interest in scale modeling is more of a historical thing. And my historical interest is mainly with land battles and armored vehicles, so there's a bit of a separation there, but someday I'll make Kentucky Dave happy and I'll build him a 72nd scale aircraft.
Well, you know what? I get exactly where you're coming from, because people say, why don't you build cars, Dave? I said, well, I drive a car every day. It doesn't really interest me, you know?
You don't want to be taking your work home with you.
Yes.
Exactly.
Well, I know that Kentucky Dave would be over the moon if you ever decided to build a 172nd scale aircraft, or even perhaps a 148 scale might perhaps be the better way to start off. He would be having kittens over that. So we hold out the hope. But you are known for your Armour subjects, and when did you first start building Armour kits?
I probably started maybe 12 years ago. Now, my entry into modeling was through model railroading, which I still do. And when I was younger, I did that a lot. Like, we're talking ages of 8 to 14 years old. You know, you have like the loop around the Christmas tree, and then that just keeps expanding and expanding.
Sure.
And then, you know, as you build that up, you need to then build some structures. So then I had to go to the hobby store and buy some glue and some kits. And then that's how you kind of get started with actually assembling things. And then I was watching some shows on the History Channel back when it was actually history stuff and not aliens and pawn stores and stuff like that. And there was I think it was Greatest Tank Battles or something like that. And then I was interested in that kind of stuff, and I knew I'd seen those models at my local shop. And then I went out and I bought some kits, and I just kind of got addicted to it.
Now, there's no particular genre of tanks that, I mean, I follow your YouTube channel, and you seem as happy building World War II as you are as happy building sort of modern stuff as well. There's no real sweet spot there for you, or is there in fact something that you do hold close and dear to your heart?
I think I'm most interested in World War II, Soviet and German armor for sure. I love like the Panzer IV, the Stug 3, as everyone knows, and I also am a big fan of the KV series and the T-34. I find that World War II Allied stuff doesn't speak to me as much. I don't know why. Maybe I just haven't done enough research into the historical stuff surrounding that, which would then inspire me. I do like some World War II Canadian stuff because that's a little bit unique. And then beyond the World War II German and Soviet, I also am increasingly getting interested in modern armor, which I previously thought was boring because everything was too clean and streamlined and modern. But then as you see some modern conflicts going on, like, for example, the one in Ukraine, you end up with, as one of the few good sides out of this, I guess you could say, is you end up with a lot of cool reference photos.
Yeah.
Yes, very true.
And you can see how these things, they do actually get really beat up, and that provides some interesting weathering opportunities. And weathering is my favorite part of the whole modeling genre, I would say.
Now, you've is a particular YouTube channel that I watch religiously and subscribe to, and it's the Australian Armour and Artillery Museum, which we have up here in Cairns, which we've actually had on the show. I think it's back on episode 10, I want to say. We spoke to them, and it's certainly on our bucket list to get up there and actually do a podcast from up there. I was very intrigued while I was watching the show. Your name popped up on it. What's your link between Panzermeister36 and the Australian Artillery Museum and the restoration of their 1-to-1 scale tanks?
So that was a funny connection that essentially came through a few, like there's always a link, right? You always know someone who knows someone.
Yeah.
So I'm not actually officially working with the museum necessarily. I am just working with Bo, who is the guy who is doing a lot of the restoration on their Stug 3. And essentially I know someone, Adam Mann, and he is a collector of parts of World War II armor, like German stuff. He just likes to collect these things, and then he can measure them and then make 3D prints for scale models. Like he's worked with Tank Craft, who makes 3D printed tracks, and he's also worked with T-Rex, who make the 3D printed tool clamps, accessories for model kits. And so I think he knew someone who Bo was talking to about getting parts, and then Adam started helping him with some parts. And then when things got a little bit out of hand with the technical features of the whole vehicle itself, rather than just things like track links and tool clamps, then Adam just put me in contact with Bo. And essentially I have, because my favorite vehicle is the Stug 3, I have a lot of reference photos and drawings and photographs and measurements of surviving vehicles as well. And I just have this plethora of information that I can keep providing to Bo if he needs something. So he'll just send me a picture on Facebook of some part, and he's like, "We have this in our collection. What is this?" And I'll say, "Okay, that's the fitting for the tow cable on the right side of the whatever." And I'll send him some pictures of surviving vehicles today, and then also some wartime photos. And I think it's kind of fun because it's kind of like modeling. People might, if you're expert in some kind of thing like a specific aircraft, your modeling buddy might ask you, how can I fix this problem with the kit? It's like that, but it's so much more real and kind of intimidating because this is actually like a very big thing. They've of course got their YouTube channel, and this is going to be something in their museum, which I would like to go see someday, even though it's on the other side of the world. So yeah, just a unique opportunity there where I had a connection through a couple of people to Bo, and then I'm just happy to help him with that restoration of that beautiful Stug 3 at their museum.
Well, as I said, I watch Workshop Wednesday. It's on my playlist where I've just got to sit down and watch it. And then they do another show on a Friday night, which I watch when I get back from Model Club. And it was just, I just got such, I was so chuffed to hear sort of your name sort of called out. And if you've watched the show and you're a bit of an armourer, if you build armour, you must watch this show.
Yeah.
You can't not build armour and not watch it. And it intrigues me that they reached out to a modeler, but they also use 1/35th scale models sometimes as references when they're trying to recreate something on one of their armour subjects that they're rebuilding, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, they've talked about how that's a great way to help just visualize something and see some details, because a lot of the photos from World War II are not what we'd like. They're very grainy. They're taken far away. The vehicle's destroyed, buried under snow on one side. But a model is a pretty decent way to get a good picture of it. Of course, a lot of the kits might have some inaccuracies, especially with small details.
And that's the risk that you run, isn't it?
Exactly. But it's a good way to get like the big picture, the 80% or more of how the thing goes together.
And of course, that's where you come in to fill the gaps. And
I have a couple of models that I've super detailed, and I will, like, if I need a a specific reference photo that I don't quite have a good shot of, I'll send Bo a couple of pictures and I'll send him a really clear shot of how I did it on my model. And I'll say, this is how I represented that. Now, there's always a caveat there because I might not have done exactly a perfect job. And, you have to be careful about using a scale model as reference for the reasons we talked about. It might not be accurate. Ideally, you want a photograph from the war or like a technical drawing or something like that, engineering drawings from the time. And a lot of those are lost, of course, because they were destroyed in bombing raids, or at the end of the war, the Germans destroyed some stuff because there was evidence, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I was getting a kick out of it. So, an aerospace engineer in Canada who had a modelling railroad background, helping with the rebuild of a 1-to-1 scale German armour kit in Australia. That's just a sensational story.
Oh. You said you were chuffed when they mentioned my name. Imagine how I felt. 'Cause I didn't even realize.
Well, here's the thing, because
first time they said my name, I'm like, oh my god, I made it.
Well, here's the thing, because you and I have met a couple of times. We've met in Omaha, and again more recently over in Madison, and we know each other through the boys from Kentucky, and it's always been a real great catching up with you. But unfortunately, so the distance means I can't get over there every year. I can get over there once every couple of years. So, but anyway, that's enough of the back slapping and the hoo-ha and all the rest of it. I'm sure the guys and gals who are listening to the show want to sort of pick our brains, or more in particular your brain, in regards to, if you're going to start out with an armour kit, where do you start from? What's your approach when you go to do a particular subject? How do you come at it?
So some people might go buy a kit just because they see a nice kit at the store. Personally, I'm usually inspired by a photograph that I might see in a book or just on the internet or in like a YouTube video or something like that. Usually I'm inspired by that, and then I now want to create a replica of that photo because it's interesting in some way. So generally that's how I start. Some people might just buy a nice kit. So I'll start to do research. I like to buy a couple of books. I know they can get expensive pretty quick. A lot of us are,
yes.
as Lucky Dave might say, librarians as well as modelers. So I like to buy some books. My favorite series would be Nuts and Bolts. They have a lot of good books. And also, of course, the Panzer Track series, which are fortunately being republished now by the guys behind Panzer Rex in England.
Okay.
So those are my two like go-to books for a lot of good information. And they also have scale drawings, often scaled to 1/35 scale, which is the modeler scale generally. So that's convenient. And there's also, I find, a lot of good groups on Facebook where you can get information. Now, I know people don't like Facebook because it's like political nonsense on there and stuff, and I'm the same. I try to use Facebook only for modeling.
Yes.
Because it's a great way to talk to a lot of our friends. And like I said, there's groups on there where people will share photos. You just ask a question. If it's a specialist group on a certain vehicle, like a KV1 or something like that, you can ask a question and people will just share photos that they have or information that they know. And I mean, this is kind of replaced what forums used to be. Forums used to be the way you do this. That's kind of before my time, to be honest. But forums have become a lot less popular, I think, in the past 10 years. And now more typical social media has kind of replaced that, which has its ups and downs. So then I'll start with a nice photograph, and I'll start to do research using books and Facebook groups into the kind of kits I want to buy, maybe some upgrades I'll need. And then the project will spiral out of control from there. I'll spend way too much money on aftermarket and decals, and the project will drag on for months and months as I get distracted by other things.
With the particular kit that you buy, do you do research? I mean, are you more about the buildability of the kit or the accuracy of the kit, or you're quite happy to sort of build that into it to bring it up to the subject that you want?
I think I'll focus more on accuracy but I also want to buy a kit that's not a piece of crap.
Yeah.
That I'm going to suffer through, because I want to be able to actually finish the project, and I don't want to become demoralized by having to do a lot of modifications to a kit that just takes a lot of time and frustration. So I'll usually go for the best kit that I can find, and then I'll get some aftermarket, and I'll go on ScaleMates. I love to use ScaleMates to do research. So I'll find the kit, and there'll be like a subject or a related aftermarket accessories for that subject, and then you can see a lot of the options that are available, and that can just help you find maybe some hard to search aftermarket, because a lot of the aftermarket companies are small brands that have small Eastern European countries or something like that, and it can be hard to just Google something and come up with that item. But if you go through ScaleMates, I find you can find these brands a lot more easily.
Yep.
And then you could go to their website, and then it's all in check, but you can kind of figure it out through that. And then I think that helps a lot of these small manufacturers also get their product out there. I think ScaleMates is a great tool in our hobby.
Yeah, totally agree on that one.
Yep.
I used to be a huge fan of forums, and I still am, although I find myself more time poor that I can't get to forums. And I have a real love-hate relationship with Facebook. It's great to be able to reach out for subject matter experts and to get some great pictures as well, keep up with your mates. But it's if somebody could develop something that is halfway between a forum and Facebook, I'd be the happiest man on earth.
Yeah, same thing for me. I go on Facebook for modeling, and then you get distracted by time wasting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've chosen your subject. You've hunted down the aftermarket stuff that you want to get for it. You've got your research books. What's the next step? With an aircraft, people generally start with the cockpit. With a ship, we generally start with the hull. What does somebody who builds Armour start with?
I think generally you start with the wheels, the wheels and the tracks. That's how kits always start you off, which are the most tedious, repetitive aspects of it. Now, that might not be the worst thing, because as people talk about before, I've heard them say that when you're doing an aircraft, they will try to start with the ordnance sometimes, because that can be tedious, and you kind of want to get that out of the way, because when you're finishing the model, you don't want to have to now do the ordnance, and then that just makes you put it aside because you don't want to deal with that. So I do try to start with the more monotonous aspects of a kit, like the tracks and the wheels at the beginning. Additionally, maybe I'm going to my local modeling club for a build night. That's also a good time to do wheels and tracks, because you're just kind of chatting with someone while you're doing something that you don't have to think about too much. And so sometimes I'll just bring a kit I know I'm going to build soon to the meet, and I'll just do the wheels and tracks over the course of a couple of meetings. And then when I actually now decide to do that kit in 2 months, well, I've already done the tedious part of it, so I can get right on to building the hull and the turret, and it actually helps to speed up the process a little bit that way. I think that in general, we tend to follow the instructions. You might do some modifications if you're buying some aftermarket. You might have to do some cutting and filling and modifications like that. I'm not a super crazy modification of kit kind of guy. I try to avoid big resin conversions and photo etch fenders, because they intimidate me a little bit. And generally I want to actually kind of speed up the building process, because the part of the model I enjoy the most is painting and weathering it. So if I get dragged, or if I get bogged down with a whole bunch of modifications to the kit and it takes months to build, that's when I can get burned out.
Yes.
So like I said, I'll try to buy the best kit available, and I might spend extra money investing that to save me time having to deal with conversions and stuff.
I'm one of those weird people who really enjoy doing the tracks and the wheels, to tell you the truth. I find it really zen-like just to sit there, and nothing makes me more happy than individual links to sit and sort of punch them together. I love it.
Well, you should try the individual links I just did on my M10 Booker, because there's 9 parts per link.
Oh my!
Jeez.
And then there's 88 links per side and 2 sides, and that's 1,584 parts for the tracks.
Ouch!
But they look really good in the end. I don't think it was worth it.
Yeah, that's one of the things about Armour models. Like the part count can be sort of artificially inflated because of those sort of things. You know, you almost can't go by the parts count with a lot of Armour kits.
A lot of people joke that brands like Bronco and Mini Art, they'll find a part that on the real tank is made of 3 parts, and they'll make it out of 10 parts in the kit to somehow make it even more complicated.
Yeah, I've built a couple of Mini Art ones, and geez, they just drive me nuts. Even me, who likes, you know.
Well, you tried to do a Bronco, didn't you?
Well, the Bronco was just unbuildable. That's that stupid Italian thing, which I smashed with a hammer.
Yeah, that's right.
And
Yeah, that's reasonable.
and
that's not even a tank. That's a tankette.
and the Mini Art, I did a because my dad used to drive dingoes in the desert just post World War II, and I built one for him, but it was just so complicated for what it was. It nearly didn't sort of get finished. So anyway. Oh, I'm getting shudders just thinking about that particular thing. So now it's interesting because our good mate Clayton Ockerby and Stuart from Black Hat Models, they're both also Armour YouTubers as well, although both of them have had an attempt at doing aircraft in recent times. They're both when they get to doing their painting, and I'll talk something else about painting which just drives me nuts about Armour models, but they're doing black basing, and they're also doing that new where it's sort of like all, I don't want to say red, but almost all hull red as an undercoat before they sort of start moving on to the camouflage.
That's because that's supposed to be like the underlying rust layer.
Yeah. What's your 2 cents worth on that?
I generally don't try to do a lot of that fancy stuff with the airbrush. People will do the black basing and they'll do mottling, you know, where you like spray the top coat in thin applications, building up a random effect, and that has different opacity, so you see the black shining through. I don't do that because I'm honestly not the world's best airbrusher, and I tend to make mistakes when I do that, and then it takes me it's like this snowballing effect of, well, now I got to do some touch-ups, and then I'm airbrushing more, and it's just causing more mistakes. So I generally will do like that fancy color modulation, like subtle variations later on with oil paints.
Right.
Because I have a lot more control there, and if I make a mistake, you can easily just wipe it away or adjust it with some thinner. It's a lot less permanent. Now, it takes maybe more time in the execution because you can airbrush much faster than you can brush paint. But I have more confidence in not making a mistake and being able to be more subtle and have more control with the application. Now, additionally, you're talking about the red primer basing there.
Yeah.
I will generally, instead of black basing, I'll just try to use a primer that has a brown or a red color to it. Because I find that when I'm painting something, especially with a lighter base color, like something that's yellow, like German tanks are generally base coated in yellow later in the war. Yellow is not a very opaque paint. And so you have a bit of like warmth coming through the finish depending on how thickly you apply your yellow. And I find that the model looks more lively when I apply a red primer and then the yellow on top versus if I applied like a gray Mr. Surfacer or Tamiya primer, because, you know, there is that hint of color coming through. Additionally, if you're doing something like hairspray chipping, you could also just use that red primer as your color you're exposing through the hairspray chipping as well.
Which red primer do you prefer?
I prefer the Tamiya Fine Surface Primer, which is now illegal in Canada.
Oh, what the heck's going on with all that sort of stuff?
I don't know a lot of the details.
I've seen all these recalls for all your paint, spray can paint.
Now, as far as I understand it, to put it briefly, I believe the importer for Tamiya in Canada did not have the right license to import the paint because there's some chemical in it that you need a certain license to be able to import. And they didn't have that, so they were somehow importing it, well, like I'll say illegally, but they didn't have the right paperwork to import it. So now they've had to stopped distributing it to hobby stores, and now actually they're having to recall it from hobby stores as well. Now, if you have it in your house, they're not going to come take it away. It's fine. It's just businesses have to return it to Borgfeld. That's what I understand is the issue. So it's not a huge big deal. I think they'll get it fixed in the next couple of months, and it will be back to normal. But
Okay, all right.
there's other options out there. Like you can use Mr. Surfacer. Like they have got a primer that's the same thing as Tamiya, right? Just different brand, and it's probably a little different, but that's still allowed. So that's the backup option. You go with
really?
Mr. Surfacer primer. Yeah, or like the Mr. Metalizer. They have a red primer that looks just the same as the Tamiya stuff.
Right,
So
right.
It's not the end of the world, right?
That's true. Yeah. It's weird how only the Tamiya one is the
Yeah.
The one they pipped.
I think it's because that importer was the importer of Tamiya, and maybe they're not the importer of Mr. Surfacer, or perhaps Mr. Surfacer
I mean, the
doesn't have
Mr.
that
Surfacer
chemical.
would be the better brand, right?
Yeah, you think?
Yeah, and it's probably like as toxic in the end, right? They're all lacquer spray cans.
Yes.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, I mean, you shouldn't use it as a mouthwash or anything.
You can try that once.
Yeah.
Once.
Once. First and last time.
It reminds me of the War Boys out of Mad Max, where they
That's
spray the
sort of-
chrome in the mouth, go shiny. Yeah, anyway.
Back on topic.
Yeah, sorry, Evan. I completely sidetracked you there.
So while we're talking to you, we're actually watching one of your videos. What's this? It's a Bradley, right?
Bradley,
it's a Bradley.
Ukraine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, did you use the spray can to prime this one, or?
No, on that one, I just airbrushed it with, I believe, Mr. Surfacer 1500 Black.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, in that case, I didn't care about the like that red primer warmth coming through, because I knew I was going to be painting it in a dark green, which is very opaque. And I was also going to be masking and applying 3 other layers of paint because it had that digital camouflage. So I had so much paint building up. I didn't care about that, artsy fartsy red primer kind of warmth coming through.
Yeah.
So I just left it with the black primer. Everyone has some black primer that they just have sitting around, so we'll use that up.
Yep.
Yeah, generally I don't use spray cans. I like to use
Use the airbrush.
to apply stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because
find that
if you're using the spray cans, man, it fills up those grills. The photo etch grills, and it ruins them, right?
Exactly. It's like it's out of control. I feel like I'm just hosing it on, and if I try to back up anymore, well, now I'm not really spraying into my spray booth anymore. It's going all over the place.
Yes.
Yeah. So I have to go outside if I want to use the Tamiya stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I love using spray cans on occasion because they're quick and dirty, But you can't use that with those photo etch grills. It just completely. I've seen people do it, and you see it all get caked up, and you're like, oh no, man, what have you done?
Yeah.
So since your favorite subject is the Stug 3, what is the best kit?
The best kit of the Stug 3. I'm going to lean towards the Ryfield model kits that came out in the past couple of years.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, well, that's at least with the Ausführung G, which is the later model and the most produced of the variants. Generally, the Dragon kits are very good, and Dragon has made a kit of every single possible variation.
Yeah, but availability is the issue.
There's like
right?
35 Dragon kits, and they're very good. Now, if you're like a crazy rivet counter with your own build kind of guy like me, where I want to make it all accurate to match a photo or something, then you have to invest in aftermarket because they're all flawed in some minor way. For the average builder, that's not an issue. Yes, Dragon kits have crappy instructions sometimes, especially with the later boxings of a series as they get more and more confused with the new sprues introduced. But generally, the Dragon kits are quite good. But the Ryfield model kits, I mean, they're brand new. They're not 15 years old like the Dragon molds. So the fidelity and the welds and the bolts and everything is just somehow even better than the Dragon kits, which
they
are
about
still
the same
very
price?
good. Yeah, they're definitely the same price because Dragon keeps releasing their kits at higher and higher prices every time.
Yeah, I was going
I
to
feel
say.
like the kits were like $40, $50 when they first came out in 2008. And then they now release them and they're $80, $90. Well, it's an older kit. It should be cheaper.
I think
I don't know. I don't know the.
Look at what's going on in the market and go, yeah. Well, that's the same as our one, and that's going for this much, so we'll price ours the same. Okay? And it's like,
Exactly,
it's not the same because you've got an older kit.
As I understand it, Dragon lost essentially their whole design team a number of years ago, which is why they have not released any new kits. They just keep re-releasing the old ones. And I believe that their design team went to companies that popped up like Ryfield Model and Meng and these new Chinese manufacturers or Hong Kong manufacturers that popped up in the past, since about 2012 when Dragon stopped making new kits. So that's my understanding there.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And like you said, Dragon just sees Mini Arts releasing a SEKF at 234. Well, we're just going to repop our kit for more money when it's not as good. Yeah.
It's interesting. I'm just as the guy said, we've got your videos playing in the background while we talk to you, and I couldn't help but notice that you use VMS for.
Yes.
Now, interestingly, Mike Basket has had some issues with it, and you know who else does not like it? Steve Hustad.
Who?
He just cannot get it to work. And
varnishes in particular.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Clayton is no, he swears by it. You actually love the product as well. Is there some sort of magic sort of thing you have to, or chant, or some sort of animal you got to sacrifice before you use VMS? What's the story here?
Well, I would say that a lot of people have different experiences with paint. Some people have great experience with Vallejo paint. Some people have terrible experiences with Vallejo paint. And then comes down to your airbrush and the environment you work in and just how you work with things. And I think the VMS might be the same way. It just might depend on factors like that are out of your control. When you're, if you're using an acrylic paint for brush application, that's pretty generic and that should work for everyone. But I find that with airbrushing, there's a lot more violent opinions about this is the way to do it. This works for me. This doesn't work. I airbrush the VMS varnish out of a Badger Chrome, which is a detail airbrush. It's got a very fine needle and nozzle, and people are usually spraying varnishes out of a very thick nozzle on their airbrush because you're trying to like hose it on.
Yeah, jamming it on. Yeah.
And they're also saying, if it starts to clog up, you've got like a margin there before it seals up entirely because you're just working with a bigger opening on your airbrush. I use the Badger Chrome, and I do not have issues with it clogging up. I don't know, man. It just I don't thin it. I just squeeze it right out of the bottle into my airbrush.
Okay.
And I spray it on it like a little higher PSI than normal, but not above 25 PSI. I think I'm probably spraying around 22 at the most.
That's still quite high, though. That's still quite high, 22 PSI.
Yeah, I would say it's a varnish. You're not doing a close application. You're doing a couple of passes, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm using detail brush, no thinning. It works for me, right?
Because normally with your paint, you're sort of spraying at maximum 15 PSI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you spray it down like wet, like really sort of, or you sort of like
layer it,
misting it on kind of thing or something?
I'm not. I'd say wet for sure. Like I'm doing a pass that is giving a good coverage in one go. But since I'm using that fine airbrush, I'm not actually putting out a lot at once. So I have to do a couple passes to even cover like a whole surface. I kind of got to go up and down the side of the tank with probably 4 or 5 passes to get actually the whole thing covered. And I might go back and do a second coat right away. So I'm not like hosing it on from a distance where I'm just blasting it on the model wet. I'm doing a good solid application.
That's most of the painting I do. So, yeah, I get you.
Bloody car models.
Yeah, I'm doing a good solid application over a couple passes with a pretty fine nozzle, but I'm basically opening it up all the way. So I don't know what the point is. I might as well just use a smaller airbrush, but I don't know, man. It works for me, and
I'd love to get to the bottom of what the issue that Mike's having, and I'd love to hear what Steve Hustad, the issue he's hearing, because I've bought a couple of bottles, and they're sitting there. I haven't used them yet because, well, I should just go and do it, but I haven't used it yet because I know some people have had issues, and
I don't want to waste your time.
I don't want to spend half an hour cleaning my damn airbrush.
Yeah, and especially with a varnish, that's the last step on a model sometimes.
Yeah.
You don't want to ruin it. You don't want
Exactly.
to ruin it at the end, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing worse.
But I have great experiences with their satin and their matte. Satin works well for the weathering, and the matte good for sealing. I don't use their gloss. I used it on the Bradley. It was okay, but I prefer Tamiya for the gloss.
Since we're on this sort of a topic where, one person says it's good, so we had one of our listeners write in before saying that def model wheels are really good, and I remember reading something that they weren't so good. But then I went on the internet. I couldn't find any of those examples. So have you ever used a def model?
Yep, I've got some of their wheels, and they're fantastic. I mean,
Okay.
I used them on a recent kit, didn't finish it, but they fit perfectly. They're really well detailed, and they actually include masks for the hub and for the rubber. So depending on if you want to paint the rubber first,
Right.
hub after, or the other way around, you've got masks for both included.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, I think they've been around for a while, so it's possible maybe they're older kits.
Right.
I don't know, but in my
I
experience,
think a lot of
been
companies
great.
have like a pretty spotty early years,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk a bit about your... well, actually, before I get to YouTube channel, I'm really keen to sort of also chat how you attack and tackle tracks, because that seems to be the bane of many a...
Well, that's your bane.
well, no, I've managed to sort of overcome that hump now.
Have you?
Yeah, I do quite good tracks now.
Well, there's a lot of different track types out there, so you can be good at one and then still not have any skills with the other,
True.
right?
I still have difficulty doing rubber tracks, so that drives me nuts.
I always
trying to do that.
I never use them.
Yeah.
I ditch them. I'll get aftermarket tracks rather than use rubber bands.
What about you, Evan? What's your opinion on rubber tracks versus aftermarket stuff?
I don't like rubber tracks. I usually replace them. In the rare exception, if it's a vehicle where the entire upper portion of the track is covered by the side skirts, it's not visible, well, then rubber tracks might work because you're not going to see the lack of any sag. Or what I would usually just do is I'll buy aftermarket tracks and I won't use the top half. I'll just kind of hook it around the wheels at either end, and then we'll pretend that it's continuing across the top and never talking about it.
So, I've had some pretty good experiences with rubber tracks, but that's specifically not like old school Tamiya type
Yeah.
stuff, but more like the modern Tamiya. And no, sorry, not modern. Oh, maybe it is modern. But I mean, the sort of more recent-ish kits have a better form of rubber tracks than the old vinyl ones that you had to staple or melt melt
glue them
together.
now
You know,
Yeah.
the ones that you can
glue
actually
most of them
glue
now with
together.
Tamiya extra thin cement, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the more modern version of rubber tracks, and you usually see them on American vehicles, like Shermans and stuff, because that's the best way to represent them. I mean, there's not supposed to be any.
There's no sag.
No sag. But yeah, a lot, and it's a good thing that the American tanks kind of went ignored for the like the 80s and 90s era of armor modeling, and that now you've got the actual technology to properly represent that.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to do it. You wouldn't want to be the guy building a Sherman in 1984 or something like that. that sounds like a terrible idea.
Yeah.
I have this dark recollection somewhere where I think it was maybe back in the 70s or something like that, where instead of melting the tracks together, you'd get some thread and sew them together.
Stitch them together.
Yeah.
Stitch them together.
Oh my god.
That sounds like a terrible experience.
Yeah, no, so pass on that. I remember you used to have
I've
the
seen instructions with the staple, and also the one where they tell you to like use a heated nail to melt the plugs.
or a screwdriver, heat up the end of a flathead screwdriver.
Yeah, exactly. That's old school.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
Very much so.
we've definitely gone past that.
Thank God that's over.
We've got to talk about your raging successful YouTube channel, and which is Panzermeister36.
You say that so tentatively, like
Doesn't want to stuff it up again, do you? Though?
I did it.
no, because he's getting his numbers mixed up in his head. That's what he's doing.
Dyslexia is a terrible thing.
The joys of being dyslexic. Yeah, we're going to talk about your wildly successful YouTube channel, which for anybody who's sort of starting out, or even is a accomplished builder, I would certainly recommend you go and check it out.
Oh,
because
definitely.
some of the stuff you get on there is just absolutely awesome. How long does it take you to put a show together or an episode together, or have you got sort of all mapped out, or do you just go, I think this will be fun, and just do it from there?
It takes a lot longer than it really should because I'm a slow builder. And also when you're building something for a video or painting and weathering for a video, that makes you go even more slowly because you have to think about it. You have to kind of plan, okay, I'm going to film this aspect of it. And you have to film certain parts of it. So you're kind of working at sometimes odd angles just to demonstrate something nicely for the camera. And then you have to edit everything as well, which can take as much time as actually doing the project. So it can take me months and months. Like I think that Bradley video,
Yep.
I started the weathering aspect of that in April, and I finished the video early October, so 6 months.
Wow.
But it's not 6 months of solid work. I'm bouncing back and forth between a few projects. So I have a lot of like back burner things that I'll like long lead times essentially. So I'm always working on usually 3 videos at once.
Oh.
Kind of because I like to be working on something where I'm building and also painting and maybe weathering, because if I show up at the bench and I want to build, well, I can work on that project today.
How do you
If I
keep
show up
track
at the
of?
bench and I want to paint?
How do you keep track of where you are if you're doing 3 videos at once?
Oh,
What?
Well, I'm young. I can still remember everything.
That's it, Dave.
I do write notes. I find writing notes is a great way to know where you are, what you still have to do, and planning out, of course, what technique to do next is a good way to keep track of all that. I mean, I sometimes do let things sit for a long time, like 6 months, and I'll come back to it. And I need to actually go look at my video camera and see what the last thing I did was, like on my raw video files, to get a bit of a primer. Okay, that's where I was. But I usually have a pretty standard technique in terms of the order of my weathering technique applications. And I'll usually, I'll finish one technique before I possibly put a model away for a couple of weeks or months. So I'll finish the wash and then I'll get back to it. Okay, now I know the next thing I usually do is I'll start doing the dust effects and grime accumulations. So I have a general procedure I follow. I can always pick and choose certain techniques, but that helps me always kind of know where to go if I ever come back to something. And also helps me be pretty prolific and efficient in actually completing something, because sometimes you can get decision paralysis if you don't know what the next thing you're trying to do is, and then you can possibly abandon a project because you don't want to mess it up. By having this process in my mind, I kind of know, okay, I've done this technique, now generally I'll do this next. So that helps me to be a little bit more efficient that way as well.
Do you think to yourself, I really want to build this kit and I'll video it, or do you think you want to demonstrate a technique so you choose a kit to fit that technique you want to show?
That's a good question. No one's ever really asked me about this before. Because I'm always building projects, like a subject that I'm passionate and excited about, I'm always kind of like, this would be really cool to do a video about. And I almost end up doing videos on every single thing I'm doing. That's a bad idea because, like I said, doing a video on something makes it take a lot longer. And then now suddenly everything I'm doing is taking a lot longer. So I'm trying to narrow it down now, and maybe half the things I'm doing are actually going to get a video. And some of the things I do are not exactly as sexy subjects for YouTube. So I'll just, this is a bit of a niche thing. I'll do that mostly for myself. And I might be able to do a brief video on a certain technique on that subject, but it's not going to be a whole hour-long extravaganza on building or weathering this subject. It's going to be a more focused video.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do try to do both. I'll do big videos on the entire process of weathering something, and then and also on building something, and then I'll do niche videos on a certain technique for building or painting or weathering something, generally on subjects that are not having a full video, just something I'm doing for myself and trying to be a little quicker because I need to actually finish models, and I am not finishing very many models, so I need to get better at not having the big scope creep of having a huge video on something when I should just do that for myself and have more enjoyment that way.
Yeah, for sure.
What kind of a camera do you use?
I use a Sony Handycam, which is like a cheap camcorder.
Oh yeah.
But
Yeah,
it films in.
I think I've seen like Plasmo use something similar.
Yep, it films in HD. I don't do the 4K. Maybe I could someday, but that just takes up so much more file storage space on my computer. This thing is a really crappy mic, so now I actually plug a mic into it. If I do any live recording, like I'm doing a technique kind of live for the video versus a technique I'm showing and voicing over.
Yeah, audio is one of those things where if it's bad, everyone notices, but if it's good, no one notices.
Yeah.
You know?
I know a lot of the guys nowadays, if they're doing something where they're not doing like a super detailed close-up shot, they just use their cell phone, and modern cell phones are pretty damn good, right? Like your cameras on those things, especially for video, they have usually a bit of optical zoom now on decent phones, and they also have pretty good mics in them now. So people do great jobs with just like if you want to do some video work.
One thing that I would be a bit sus
do.
about is the color representation, which is actually fairly important for our hobby, right? Like you don't especially when it comes to colors like olive drab, which can look more brown or more green depending on how you've got your camera set up and
that's
what other colors are in the frame, you know?
Because that's very interesting. I was just recently listening to the latest Modelling Insanity podcast. I got Sully on from Sully Models, a guy in the UK, and he just uses an iPhone purely for his video stuff. And it's a particular model of the iPhone because you can still play around with the
white balance.
Yes. And because he found that very important. Some of the videos he did, the colour didn't come out as what he was seeing. So hence the reason why he sort of plays that a bit.
Yeah, the camera I have doesn't have a lot of that, but I find its internal adjustment is not too bad. If you zoom in, generally it's blowing out colors a bit more, making them lighter. But I figured out some pretty standard adjustments in my editing software that I know if I'm doing a Panzer Gray tank, I'll just make this adjustment to every single video file, increase the purple saturation by 10% or something to cancel out whatever blue tint the camera's doing.
Yeah.
And it's a very efficient way to do that because I figured it all out. So I've got just notes written down.
Yeah.
If I'm doing a video, I just do this, click everything, and that kind of skips that adjustment. That just comes with experience, though, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. What's your next big project coming up?
It is the M10 Booker by Magic Factory. I think you guys were talking about this in the last episode. You guys saw this at the Scale ACT, right?
Yeah. I love it. I reckon it's a great looking tank, and I'd love to go and buy it. I was just saying at the beginning of the show, I've spent so much money this month on a whole heap of rockets and aircraft that, and then of course the 116th M113 is out now, and that's about $250 Aussie. So I'm finding it very
hemorrhaging money.
I'm hemorrhaging modelling money at the moment, left, right, and centre.
Yeah.
So I'm really keen to sort of see you start the Booker and have a video on that.
Yeah, I was fortunate in that I actually got an early review sample from the Modeling News, which I think are fellow Aussies with you guys, right?
Yep.
I had a connection through that, so I actually got the kit a couple of weeks before it hit the wide market. So I finished it. It's next to me here. I think by the time your episode airs, my build video will be up on that. It was a great kit. I'm kind of excited about painting this thing because this vehicle is brand new. I mean, the U.S. Army got their first ones in February.
Pristine.
Yeah, but I kind of want to do some cool camo. Like, what's this thing going to look like in maybe 2 years?
Yeah.
Or if there was some kind of a conflict, how would this thing look? So I'm trying to, do like a slightly future but still feasible kind of what if. And so I figured out my camouflage. I think I'm going to do on that. I'm going to put some stowage on it. Well, I don't think I'm going to modify the kit in any way, like add any fancy new future optic stuff, but it's a very futuristic and cool looking subject, and it was a great kit for sure.
Well, it's interesting because the Australian Army just received our brand spanking new Abrams, and they're fresh off the ship and they're already out on the range, and they're filthy.
Yeah,
absolutely filthy. I mean, you wouldn't think it was a brand spanking new tank. That's how filthy they are. But I'd quite like doing sometimes armour. I mean, I've done a T-34 done up for the May Day parade in absolute pristine condition with no scratches or anything on it. So you can do model armour. And let's not forget when armoured regiments have a parade for, Capion Day or something like that, their tanks and APCs will be polished within an inch of their life on the parade ground because the RSM will go around and check, and if that has got a speck of dust or anything on it, you'll be marching.
I think they're probably just washed.
No,
right?
No.
They don't get polished. They just get washed.
They don't get polished. They get washed to the point where
they get washed like a car.
Yes, but an RSM would not allow a dirty tank to go onto a parade ground for a general regimental parade, and I'll live and die by that statement.
Maybe. In any case, I will say that like a parade vehicle is going to be more evenly photographed from all sides than a tank in combat.
Yeah.
Or in theatre. So there is that. You got plenty of photos.
Now, someday I'll do something like that because I think that's an interesting challenge. Because often when you just paint a model and you don't do a lot of like washes and stuff, the model kind of looks a bit artificial, like a toy, right? Yes. I find that some of those weathering techniques, like the wash in particular, is what makes the details pop out and almost makes your eye kind of adjust to the level of detail and see this thing as more of a scale model. Correct. Now, I think it'd be a cool challenge to do that, like give this model a panel line wash to make it look more realistic, but also not make it look filthy. That would be an interesting challenge for sure.
Or a challenge of doing a museum quality model. So again, you go to a museum and there's armour there that has been cleaned down, but it still looks old. So how do you impart that without sort of making it look like a toy? Or, how do you show age without sort of the weathering side of it? I think that's really interesting sort of discussion.
I think one aspect is that you would have to, and this is coming from a car modeler, is that you would actually have to dial in your surface finish. Because, a clean but painted steel surface is actually a little bit reflective. Right? Yep. It's
you
sort
go
of
with like a satin.
Yeah, it's getting in the satin category, right? Especially like those parade vehicles that tend to be like given a fresh coat of paint, Yeah,
they're a bit like shiny, and sometimes you can see the different sheen on different colors of the camouflage as well that they sprayed on.
Yes. Yeah.
There's a lot of cool stuff like that. And I think you'd also want to spend a lot more time maybe making very subtle like rolled steel texture on the places where it's appropriate. Yeah. Because you can't use stuff like chipping effects to emphasize this is made of metal. Yeah, you can't damage fenders to make them look like they're sheet metal. You'd have to go with super scale photo etch, and you'd be putting effort into different areas to make the model look convincing.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's worth the effort, but
that's why I haven't done it. Right? Mud everywhere. That's way easier. So I like to weather things.
I think even someone like me who could appreciate those sort of touches would look at it and go, okay, why? You should have spent your time doing something else, dude.
Yeah. Evan, so where can people find you? Where can they meet you? Well, when you go to IPMS Nationals, you're generally doing a talk, are you not?
A workshop?
A workshop,
yes. Yeah, I did at the last two NATs, I did a presentation on weathering, and I actually filmed that for my channel if people want to see that. At the next NATs in 2025, I don't think I'm going to be there, but I'm going to be at the AMPS Nationals, the Armour Model Preservation Society. So I'm doing a presentation there instead. I go to all the local shows in Ottawa here, as few as we have, and I also go to Heritage Con. People want to meet me there.
Which is coming up very soon, Heritage Con.
Yep. I'll get to meet my Kentucky friends there. And I do also want to go to some European shows in the future. That would be really exciting. And I mean, if money's no object, Scale ACT also sounds like a pretty good show.
Oh, it is, man.
I could just travel the world, just go to modeling shows. I don't think I'd actually get any modeling done, though, would I?
Well, yeah, that's kind of the predicament we're in, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Too much travelling, not enough time on the bench.
Panzermeister36 at large,
Yes.
world traveller. All right, let's let people know where they can find you. So obviously you got your YouTube channel, so go ahead and spruik yourself, mate.
Yeah, my YouTube channel is Panzermeister36. I've been doing this for 11 years, so you can just type that into YouTube, or I think if you search some generic modeling, weathering techniques into YouTube, my videos might pop up there as well. I'm also on Facebook. I've got a Facebook group, mainly just where I share my own projects and updates, but you can message me on Facebook, Evan McCallum. I like helping people with their models, and I don't mind at all helping people that way. And I also have a Patreon page where I also post some more updates as well, which is Panzermeister Models on Patreon.
There you go, folks. You heard all about it. Go and check out his YouTube channel. Subscribe to it. Help out on Patreon. Not a bad guy for a Canadian.
Wow.
Thank you.
I can say that because my sister's a Canadian and my mother lives in Montreal as well. So, and I also got a sister-in-law and brother-in-law who are in Toronto. So,
For someone who spends a lot of time over there, you haven't visited him.
Yeah, you're basically an honorary Canadian at this point.
I am. But the thing with Ottawa, it's in between Montreal and Toronto. So as I'm flying over, the best I can do is just go to the toilet and sort of use that as I'm flying over.
Oh, okay.
That's the closest you'll get. Dribbling down through the sky as you fly over.
Give him a wave.
Got any snow hit you yet, or is it still pretty dry up there?
The weather?
Yeah.
Oh, I'd say it's close to Toronto. It's a little colder.
Okay.
Maybe Montreal. Yeah. I mean, right now there's our first snow on the ground pretty late this year, but
There you go.
it's a nice place.
You're going to have a white Christmas.
Hopefully.
Evan, thanks very much for being on the show. Really appreciate it. Say good day
Thank you
to
for
those.
having me.
That's fine. It's our distinct pleasure in having you. And thank you also for supporting the show with that wonderful gift that we're going to be spinning up very shortly, which is half an hour with Panzermeister36. That's a gold thing that I'd love to win, isn't it? That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Anyway, mate, thanks very much. Best of luck for the rest of your year. And if you come across a couple of Kentucky hayseeds, walk across the other side of the road.
Thank you.
All right, no worries. Thanks, mate. Well, that was really good to be able to chat to Evan.
Yeah, it was good fun talk.
Such a nice guy.
Oh, he is.
And
Champion.
if you ever get the opportunity to meet him in person, go up and say good day. And definitely go and check out his YouTube channel because there's a ton of videos there that will help you with along your modelling journey if you're into Armour.
It's always good when I suppose that's what people get out of our podcast, when there's a lot of like content there that you can sort of get into and you're not going to catch up anytime soon.
Oh, and we only scratched the surface with what we were talking about with Evan.
Yeah.
I mean, you can...
There's only so much you can talk about in a 30-minute period, isn't there?
Oh, geez, I think we had him on for an hour there.
Yeah.
So,
sorry, an hour. Yeah.
We got some late mail in while we were talking to Evan there, and that comes in for our good mate Stuart Rolfe from Black Hat Scale Models. And he writes in, "Hello champions, hope this email finds you well. The big news of the week is that 1/16th M113 from Andy's hobby headquarters has finally arrived in the great land down under. Now that means Dave now needs to get his hands on one. I've been reliably informed that Dave's modelling fund has suffered some serious downgrading of its fiscal strength, and that the price for these awesome 1/16 kits would likely cause serious harm to Dave's modelling fund and potentially his marital status should he attempt to purchase a kit at this time. So, OTB listeners, I feel we are dutifully obliged to assist the OTB crew to acquire a kit in order that Dave does not miss the joy of building and probably modifying this kit. After all, I think we all know that Dave's personal intervention by talking directly with Andy is what helped bring this kit to markets. I wouldn't go that far, but anyway. So, Dave, last night I made a call to North Pole and spoke with Santa's top elf. you should expect to receive a special package delivery around December the 25th this year. Clean out your chimney. Whatever you do not light a fire on Christmas Eve. Styrene is not a friend of the flames. Enjoy from your OTB fans. Thanks very much.
Oh, that is so cool.
That's funny, man.
That is so
he actually?
cool.
No, not really.
Okay. I don't even know.
That is really cool.
Okay, so we just finished having a chat with Evan, and the prize for our Patreon Wheel of Fortune is a half-hour exclusive one-on-one with Panzermeister36 for the lucky winner.
Oh, yeah.
So we're just going to spin that wheel now and see who out of our Patreon supporters is going to win that wonderful prize. And it is Dave Osborne.
Well,
so
congratulations, Dave.
I'll be reaching out via email to you and get you hooked up so that you can have a one-on-one session with the infamous Panzermeister36. And of course, if you want to be in the Patreon Wheel of Fortune, just simply become a Patreon supporter. You can do that by going to www.patreon.com/onthebench. Gentlemen, I think that's it for the show.
Yep.
We got one more before the end of the year. That'll
right.
be end of season. It'll be season 9 next year.
Mm-hmm.
So
I thought the previous one was the last one of the year. I was like, oh yeah, cool. We're free for the rest of the year.
Beginning of December, we
There's
still
still 2 more.
we still got obligations, man, to
That's
our
it, buddy.
listeners.
Yep.
All right, let's sign off.
Oh, it's adios from me.
Yeah, see ya.
Jeez, Julian.
You know what? I have a legacy here.
I know you have a legacy.
I can't, and that legacy is very bad and jank, and you just like no one's expecting a good sign off from me, and I'd like to keep it that way.
People come up to me in the street when I'm traveling, and they go, "Hey, Julian really liked that in real life, like he is in the show." I say, "Yeah."
What is that supposed to mean?
Well, you take it whichever way you want to take it, man.
So
All right, guys. We'll see you all in a fortnight. We'll catch you then. Sure hope you enjoyed that episode. And don't forget, there's a whole heap of other wonderful podcasts for you to listen to. Simply go to modelpodcasts.com for the full listing of all the other great shows. Don't forget also Horizon Models closing up shop, so head over to horizonmodels.com to get your hands on wonderful 1/72nd scale rocket before they're all gone. We recommend that you listen to 2 fantastic podcasts. First one is Black Hat Scale Models, our good friend Stuart, and also Workshop Hobbies, our good mate Clayton Ockerby. Go check out both of those fantastic YouTube channels. We'll be back in a fortnight. I'll see you then.